Are there support programs for workers in apprenticeship, especially specifically black workers?
Yeah, there are groups within, I think now you know what, sheet metal workers definitely has a little caucus, a group. I don't know about electrical and all. Some of the trades do have groups that mentor folks through that are ethnically pointed, but I don't know all of them.
For the unions, my understanding is that generally apprentices like look for mentors who are journeymen, correct?
Yeah.
Do you think there's a struggle for black workers to find these mentors in the trades?
I don't I don't think so. If you find, if you're a really good apprentice, you really are going at it, and your intent is to be a journey person at the end of it, you're going to find somebody who will mentor you through. And it really comes like with Big John, who's the electrical foreman on the job I'm on with LA Unified. His thing is show up on time, have the foreman's phone number, cell number, hustle, ask questions, and work safe. You're going to get somebody like John that's going to mentor you. In fact, John does have a group. Yeah, he is one. The electrical does have that. Anybody can come through, but he's African American oriented, and so you're going to get somebody who will mentor you through that process. And it may not be somebody of your own ethnic background, just by somebody who likes the way you work, and in fact you take care of business. Yeah.
What advice would you offer black workers trying to enter into trades, whether it be like definitely doing the We Build type program or any other type of program to get themselves prepared for the trade?
It's really a thing should be that by going through the pre-apprenticeship programs, you go through a number of different trade kind of orientations. You come in, there's classroom work to strengthen you on, math and all. Then you'll be a carpenter 1 week or 1 day. You'll be a plumber. You'll be a cement mason. You'll do labor work. And so at the end of 10 weeks with We Build or 8 weeks with Century, you have a sense about what it is that you want to do. And when they give you your tools and send you out there, you now have an idea of what it is that you want to do, and you go do that. It helps if you have somebody like Halisi or John, or you run into me or some of the other folks who can get you through those tough times, that you don't give up. Hang in there, let me try some avenues. And I'm real good at networking. I have a list that's built off of LA Unified's list, and I got a lot of resources, so I'll send people to jobs, and I'll say, here's what you need to do. When you approach these, and I'm talking about pre-apprentice, let them know the first thing out your mouth, my name is so-and-so, I'm a pre-apprentice, I'm with We Build, I'm with Century, I'm a carpenter, I'm interested in carpentry. Who's doing the work of carpentry? Now, you may just run into a security guard. May I get the contractor's information? When they find a hassle with that, I tell them remain respectful, because the security guard is just there doing their work. You come back and you tell the We Build people, or you tell, in particular We Build, you tell them the issues you have in getting the information. And I've actually worked it out with We Build folks to have greater access on jobs, because I've been involved with the district and all for a long time, where there was greater access on a lot of jobs. They still stop you at a lot of job sites, but the key thing is if you can get Ajax is the framing company on there, then you call Ajax. And I say, what you might want to do, if you can't get to the foreman on the job, if they're in Cucamonga or Riverside, take your butt out there and say, I'd like to put an application in, I'm a We Build, I came through so-and-so, can I at least do the application? And you've spent money and time to go do that, but you now know who the company is that's going on that, and then you continue to hammer away at them to getting on. That's on the hunt trades. The real frustrating trades are like the tile trade, where you can't hunt. And I have a real issue there, because I see that there's real bias on the part of tile contractors. But you got to be able to get to that point to which you can get up to get interviewed at the union, to get on the list to go out. And here again is where I've been working with district personnel in asking how well are the tile contractors doing with local hire and apprenticeship. And I got a general sense that they were okay. On my job, the guy had not really got started, but they say he typically runs 50% higher. I don't have any opportunity. But if I could get the district, in this case, to stay on the tire companies, union in particular, about being 50%, 30%, then that means people who are on the out of work list move off that list then rotates around. And when I'm talking to people, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm talking about people who are dues payers that need to come off that damn list, and you need to deal with it. So how do we make sure? Again, if you don't have, and I'm not putting any roses on me, if you don't have somebody with my kind of background, they don't go to the prime and say, look, we have issues with these contractors, we need to bring them in for me and read the Riot Act. And so when that doesn't happen, you don't have that movement. I'm a big believer in getting people off that list, allowing new people to come on. And the tile layers in particular, it's not a huge union, but when they do a lot of time, there's enough work to get somebody to move that list around. And that's a non-hunt trade. But a lot of the other trades where you hunt, and the carpenter trade is really crazy because you can hunt. You can put your name on that list, but you may never move off that list because people have the ability to move past you on that. So that's the real issue. Electrical is another one where you have to come off that list. And I had issues with it at first. I respect it now. Because if you have a contractor that understands that there's a local hire provision, in Pasadena on the Clark jobs, we didn't have anything. One, we had just a prevailing wage job on the City Hall job. The other, we had, it was an issue with the electrical contractor sent to the union, in a zip code orientation here, I need to get some folks, and it worked. The union sends them out. So they'll tell Henry, your next to come off, well, why don't you let Susan go off if you want, because she's local. Henry said, no big deal, I'll get dispatched out shortly. And it moves that way, and it works. It really works, because they know what they have to do. On our job at the middle school I'm on, John makes sure that he gets the people on. So Palmettos is constantly over 50% on their local hire, and they're above 30% on their apprenticeship. It's because he put the effort out to do it. Yeah.
So what do you feel is the biggest barrier in terms of getting black workers into the trade?
If it's a trade where you have to have a high school diploma and you don't have it, that's a barrier. If you don't, on your own initiative, find out about these programs to get in, that's another barrier. Then the other piece is, the big barrier is once you've qualified for the union apprenticeship program, getting past the contractors who are naturally discriminatory. Period. I'll argue that with anybody who feels like arguing with it. It is a great big issue. And again, it goes back to the perception of African American males in particular that we have to deal with. And white just would rather not have more than one or two brothers on the job. They'll never express it that way, but that's the way it comes up. And then you get to, and I can hear some of the folks arguing with me on this. You have almost 80% Hispanics on the job, and there's that entitlement thing. Now, they would deny that it's there, but it's there. I come from a background of working in coalitions with folks for many years. I worked on immigration issues, in immigration groups over the years, fought for workers, period, any kind of way. So I got a history that I can defend on when I start talking about people feeling entitled to. And so I know what I'm doing now. I'll stand on it any day. It's a real issue that has to be worked with, but if you don't have leadership willing to work with that, then we have a problem. But if you get folks out there who can get on, and I found contractors and have heard stories over and over, man, I'm glad I get that brother, that woman a chance. They are great. All they needed was that opportunity. They're there every day on time. If they get caught behind the truck to sort of turn on the freeway, they're trying to get out, they're calling the foreman, hey, Henry, I am stuck. You'll be able to see it on the news. I'll be around it, I'll be here in a minute. You know, that kind of thing. And I worked to instill that in everybody that I come in contact with. But on the other hand, in terms of my attitude about how I deal with folks, I have, and it's interesting, in last year, I've had Hispanic families write me notes. Thank you for getting my son-in-law, my son, on the job. And what it is that they did what they were supposed to do. And there's one youngster, he came up to the job as it was starting. I referred him to We Build. He did everything he should have done. He came out of there. Before I could get him on my job, he went elsewhere. When that played out, he was out of work. I introduced him to folks there. They pulled him on, and he's rolling. He's a good worker. I've had other folks that have done the same thing too. So I have a history of working with anybody who comes to the door. I'm just a little pissed off with the fact that African Americans are denied so routinely, and it comes more on the contractors, the business owners, than it does the unions. But the unions also have to step up and say, you know what, we got an issue here we need to deal with, because it's getting worse now. It's getting bigger and bigger of an issue. And you have people, I can give you hundreds of folks. I got applications for my community group that we ran for a number of years, Community Watch and Construction Watchdog Group. I had literally 1,000 applications, and we got very few people on jobs. We were really enthusiastic that we could get folks into the loop. We worked with local politicians to try and make that thing happen. And so there are folks who have gotten out of the trade because it just wasn't going to work any longer for them, you know. So it's something that we have to work on. It hasn't stopped from the 1800s all the way to now. It's got better at points, but it has changed, you know. So that's about it.
All right. So is there anything else you think you'd like to tell us that you think could help us out? Or
Well, I think just reading and really understanding the history of black labor and then understanding the history of organized labor, and then you kind of get a sense of where it's at. And for us not to get hung up on these little pieces, because really organized labor in Southern California is not in the position it's never been. And there are some folks who feel like, oh yes, we're really growing and it's happening. But my feeling is that easily, there are about 200,000 African Americans across the board, not just in the construction trade, across the board, have been ignored over the last 15 to 20 years. And that's, say, 200,000 people who have been members. That's supporters who are now on the fence, and they're either indifferent or they can't stand organized labor, you know. And we've always kind of been a people like that. We're indifferent, and unless you came through a family who was in labor, organized labor, you really don't have a real history about it. And so I think we have to be realistic as we're approaching this thing. I just think what Lola and them are doing is just unbelievable. I'm blown away. They're so organized and going at this approach. And I'm not one who's going to stand up and just simply say, well, yeah, you know, union this and union that, and when I know there's issues that need to be dealt with. I'm willing to work on those issues, but I'm not going to just sit up and say, well, okay, you know, everything's rosy. Everything is not rosy. And we have to work with, we just have to work across the board. But understanding the history of organized labor and African Americans' approach in the mix on that, you know, and then a negative point with me is the churches. Ministers have always been on the line of, on the middle and on and off on the wrong side, because they can be very different to organized labor. And yet you have some ministers in there who are very good, you know. But, so it's, you know, I got some material I should have bought you. In fact, I'll get over to you and it'll give you a history of what we've done over the last 18 years of demonstrating, of going to job sites, locking the gate, you know. You can't go to work on this job. Bold, you know, absolutely bold, you know. But it had to be done to drive a point home. We never really broke the law. We didn't just damage job sites. We didn't threaten anybody, you know, but it was making a point. And always, and you go to that thing that Danny Bakewell, the brother, could say when he coined that phrase, if we can't work, you can't work. He would never say another ethnic group was not allowed to work, but you cannot leave us out. You know, and I've argued with people, Danny never said no one, just because you were not black couldn't go to work. But if you were going to be there, we had to be there. And I got my issues with Danny. But he was absolutely right. You cannot leave any part of the population out on a discriminatory basis, because it backfires on you eventually. You know? So that's about it.
Is there anybody that you recommend me talking to specifically in terms of someone who's currently in an apprenticeship program? Or
yeah, I'll give you, I'll pull up a couple of names that you can talk to some folks that are, in fact, doing well. You know, and you can see how, you know, they can tell you firsthand what they've done and some of the things that they've gone through.
Okay. So that's it for the interview.